His part pledged to mobilize fellow lawmakers to oppose the bill.
Sai mkate ni shilingi 60, emenda shilingi 70. Kidogo kesho 80, kesho ingine 100. Sasa hatuko Kenya gani?
The Finance Bill 2024 continues to spark diverse reactions among Kenyans.
Mambo ya kuongeza VAT to something like bread, no, it's not good anyway.
We are seeing proposals to weigh heavier taxes on the people of Kenya, regardless of the challenges that continue to weigh upon us. We are just coming out from a flooding disaster, and yet we see that there's no conscience or feeling towards the challenges.
Opposition leaders argue that the proposed taxes will burden citizens. Embakasi Member of Parliament Babu Owino vowing to reject the bill until the government addresses the income disparities.
The finance bill that will be coming soon is going to hurt Kenyans economically. And the income, the surprising thing is that the income is constant. So you cannot increase the expenses of Kenyans without increasing their income. If you would have increased people's income, it would be better.
Tuangalie economy kwanza. Ndio sasa watuongezee. Kwa sababu mapato imekuwa chini sana kwa raia wa chini kama sisi.
Na tutopinga vilivyo.
Senate Majority Leader Stewart Mazayo emphasizes that while the government seeks to boost revenue, shouldn't burden citizens to the extent that they can't afford basic necessities like food.
VAT. Ni haki kweli kwamba iongezwe to that extent. Sisi tunasema hatutakubaliana na hiyo hata kidogo. Na ikija katika bunge la Senate, sisi wabunge wa Azimio tutapinga kuongezeka kwa bei ya chakula ama kuongezeka kwa bei ya vyombo vya kusafiria ama kuongezeka kwa maisha ya kuishi katika Kenya yetu.
Under the bill, Kenyans may face increased expenses, particularly for bread, as the proposed VAT of 16% removes bread from tax exemption, potentially leading to higher prices for consumers.
And these discussions are had with very heavy emotions, and of course, understandably so, because the pinch is felt on all of us, whether it's on our pay slip, whether it is on our consumables when you're going to pay something.
The bill also aims to replace the current 1.5% digital tax with a significant economic presence, requiring some digital businesses to pay 20% of their gross turnover. Additionally, the bill proposes empowering tax authorities to enforce e-invoices with penalties of up to 2 million for non-compliance, targeting small businesses to improve compliance rate. Linda Koskei, K24 TV.
Davison Shortleaf Water and Energy Solutions Farm has partnered with Trina Solar, a Tier 1 leader in photovoltaic modules and smart energy solutions aimed at driving the adoption of solar power across the East African region. Under the partnership, Davison Shortleaf will distribute Trina's innovative and reliable PV solar panels throughout the region. The initiative is geared towards advancing the transition to energy systems that prioritize sustainability, energy security, and economic growth in East Africa. The increasing demand for sustainable and reliable energy solutions in Kenya has led to a significant uptake of the adoption of solar products.
Manufacturing facility, and their panels are of very high quality and very high efficiency. So this partnership, combining Davison Shortleaf's distribution and local knowledge of the market with Trina's solar expertise, will come together and really provide a viable solution to installers and solar power users in the market.
Our scope of work is basically solar panels, which is actually our strength currently. We are always in the top 2 companies in terms of global shipment. And also we do work on the structure side of the business. For instance, the tracker, fixed structure, and so on. And also recently we are pushing a little bit of energy storage. And because we see the world is currently requiring to have the full package of the energy. So for instance, currently if you come up with a project, we can help you with the PV module, with the structure, and with the energy system and energy storage system. So basically we are offering the whole ecosystem to the customers.
Well, it goes without saying the biggest conversation in the country right now is the Finance Bill 2024. Joining me tonight is Ruth Kinyanjui, who's a financial advisor, just to try and understand certain proposals in that document. Ruth, thank you for making time for us. Just to kick us off, of course, we have proposals that are both welcomed and some that have been named as irrational. Now, just looking at that document from a general perspective, do you believe it leans more towards the government's alluding to the fact that it is pegged on expanding the tax bracket, or it's leaning more towards the government trying to increase taxes so that they can generate more revenue in an easier way?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm looking at it as government looking at a way of increasing their tax base, and also trying, if you look at last year, let me just try to start from the Finance Bill 2023 and its implementation, even when it was assented into the budget, the current year. If you look at something like, say, housing levy, it took almost 9 months or more in courts, and it actually has just started being implemented towards the tail end of this financial year. Actually, it is coming to implementation almost the last quarter of the financial year, government year. If you look at KRA by December 2023, it still had, actually by February of 2024, it still had 1.1 billion to collect. So what does that tell you? It tells you that still the government is still trailing, is still very far from where it wanted to be by June 2024, and a lot has not been done. To curb that, what has the government done? If you look at the Finance Bill 2024, we are seeing the government not more so into now the formal sector. They have jumped high into the informal sector. And that is why you have seen they have introduced something like, say, the withholding tax on supply of goods and services to anyone supplying to the government or any government agency, for anyone who doesn't have an office. So they're coming down to the hustler. That is why you have also seen they have introduced the new tax on motor vehicle, because the previous provision actually, and that is where they are actually, when you look at the current the 2024 finance bill, that's where they are looking at their catch. And maybe the quick win in terms of filling the gap that they haven't filled the last 1 year. But that not said, they have not considered a lot of things that are happening on the ground, and that I'm looking at it, for example, if they, by the time the current finance bill was being done, the current situation that the Kenyans have seen were not there. And I'm looking at maybe the floods and the current economic, the whole economic spectrum of how things have been hard for the common mwananchi, and the fact that also the usage, actually you're looking where the common mwananchi is, that's where the government is coming for the example, the issue of mobile taxes. They have increased from 15, and you can tell from the previous year they increased, now they have increased again to 20%. Anything that common mwananchi is using, they're trying to come where the money is. But however, they're not looking at the fact that opposition that will come with that, and now the opposition that is already coming, say, for the mention of the common items like money transfers, and also small things like maybe the mention of bread that is already been mentioned. So then will that fill or help the government fill the gap that they have had last year? So implementation is a big question that they need to think about. All right,
well, let's look at a few of those proposals that directly touch to the common mwananchi that you've talked about. And of course, there's a proposal to scrap off the VAT exemptions for certain banking services. That, coupled with the 20% excise duty on other fees charged by other financial institutions. Moving forward, what are we looking at in terms of access to credit, both by individuals and SMEs, and generally the overall effect it has on the end consumer?
Thank you. First, if you look at how the economy has operated, say, for the last 1 year, you will notice that if it's, for example, the availability of credit, the government has always gone ahead and taken everything, including borrowing from retail market. meaning that they have not left much money in circulation to common mwananchi. Then what they are saying is the balance that has been left to for the common mwananchi to access, then they are coming to tax more, including mobile money, where most of the, actually it's used across board, whether actually by most of the population. So by increasing that, it means that there is constraint already for the people who are working, or for the businesses, the people who are spurring the economic growth. And I look at that as a limitation for business. It's a cost of doing business. They're making the ease of doing business in Kenya also a bit difficult. And especially the fact that they are coming to very people who have already been strained in the last financial year. And looking at that, then I'm looking at the incentive that they are bringing on board, then they're not balancing, because it's deemed or seen as an overtax, because a whole increase of 5%, that's too much for people who cannot be able to even be able to afford credit. And I say that because we've seen a lot of introduction of the current, we can call them the current digital lenders, where everyone is running to. If then they will be getting very little, or they'll be overtaxed, then where does the government also want to the common mwananchi to run to? How are they availing the market? How are they balancing the market to ensure that the same money they are taking, they are also ensuring that they are giving ease in terms of doing business?
Well, when you talk about taxes, of course, the taxman is at the center of this, and this is Kerry. And when you're looking at those proposals, they've in some way received some set of new teeth, so to say, for lack of a better word. And we're looking at situations where they could be exempted from certain data protection laws. My question is, do we have the capacity as a country to ensure that Kerry works within the guidelines of data protection laws? And if not, what sort of crisis are we looking at if Kerry is to be given that power of being exempted from certain data protection laws?
Thank you so much. Actually, the whole Data Protection Act came in recently. In Kenya, I look at it from the last 1-2 years, and it was largely implemented with the big corporates, and it's coming down. However, I'm look at the Kenyan space, for example. We are a social media kind of a market, and even by the look of what the commissioner has done in terms of introducing a lot of taxes to the digital content, it is really hard for common mwananchi, especially to data protection before it comes down to the level of mwananchi, and to say that, for example, you're informed, even the implementation of mwananchi, to say your data has been, it's already very difficult, it's already very technical. If the big corporates are not still getting it, it is really taking a lot of time to implement it, because there's a lot of advertisement when it comes to digital space. And what you've seen in most of, and I'm sure even when I come to studio, for example, today, you're made to sign off something just to say that for you to attend this event, come and just ensure that we are not outlawed, even in schools, and all that is happening. So there might not be a lot of changes even when it comes to data protection, because business has to be done. People are still willing to do business. Advertisements still need to be done, but with the right caution. But how then how is that then going to go to the common mwananchi for them to understand the line that comes, especially to, or the exploitation that comes with data protection, if they cannot be able to afford basic commodities, if they cannot be able to earn their living, then what are we talking about when it comes? If the digital space is what is making money and the government is willing to tax it, then as much as it wants to be lenient to data protection, then that also will still go up even to the corporates or to the corporate ladder. So it's a win-win for the government, and data protection, as good as it is, might not speak to the common mwananchi if other things, if business is not balancing, if the condition of doing business are also not balanced. So there's a lot of win-win, and there's a lot of government investment for the common mwananchi to earn them taxes that they're asking.
Okay, Ruth, in just under a minute before we take a short break, of course, something that's very key and important to most families is the fact that we could see a situation where bread is actually removed from the VAT exempted products and the price could rise by about 10 shillings. Already at 60 shillings, it's a big reach for most families, and now we're looking at a potential 70 shillings. What do you think could have been the motivation behind having that as a target?
Thank you. I'm looking at bread as something that is consumed massively or largely. And I'm also looking at it like it has also, the government perception is looking at it like almost luxury.
Yeah.
Bread has really become is perceived to be luxury. Yeah. For example, you're talking about a 400 grams bread. If you go to the supermarket today, you'll find bread in all types, shapes and colors, you know. Then how it's being seen like not a common or a basic commodity. Yeah. Because I'm looking at, by the time they were looking at bread, why did they not look at milk?
Yeah.
You know, in the same measure. So are they looking at bread as luxury? Maybe that could be how the commissioner was being informed. But still, maybe they did not. They need to set out which kind of bread needs to be taxed and which not, so that there be. But you see, the problem is, actually the biggest problem is regulation in this country and standardization. Yeah. We do not have a standard that we follow as a country. For example, if you go to other countries, you'll find that bread, there's a kind of standard bread that is standard kind of a thing that is available to everyone. But right now we have allowed suppliers of commodities to do everything or anything they do, and that is seen or maybe construed to be luxury when it's not. So then how is a push going to go back to the government? Then we'll see a lot of court cases and what we've seen other groups doing, trying to just bring sanity and demonstration, just something to bring back the government now to the table and define what they mean by saying bread.
Okay. All right, Ruth, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for making time for the segment. And of course, we saw a tweet from Dennis Itumbi saying bread is not going to be scrapped off from that list. We're waiting to see if that will actually happen. That was Ruth Kinyanjui just sharing her sentiments on the certain proposals in the Finance Bill 2024. The conversation continues on all our social media platforms and in any and each place that you might be at, because it's very important. We take a break at this point. We'll be back with some sports news in a short while.
It's time to move. It's time to bounce.